And it would probably fall in this last slide in the owls plus significant old growth range at least, if you incorporated this, the critical habitat for the animal. Yeah.
Well, actually, just don't go back. Think of the curve that 1930, 1950, fairly flat.
Yep.
Now, Forest Service, did that include the wilderness designation? You say that it's open to harvest.
That graph showed only the lands that are currently open to harvest. If you were to take the lands that are currently available for harvest and run them back to 1930, so that all the wilderness areas have been withdrawn from that figure. Those acres, if they are in an old growth condition, would be in addition to what was shown there.
One last comment on that. The last thing you had for John Morton and another table there.
Yes, sir.
That, again, is only that timber area that's harvestable now.
That's correct.
Did you comment or could you on the effect what the wilderness area, big timber, can do to owl habitat?
Okay. The question is, I think, how important or what is the contribution of wilderness areas as spotted owl habitat? Where there are big trees in the wilderness, it works just wonderfully. And that's why where we had appropriate habitat contained within the wilderness, we attempted to anchor those HCAs on wilderness and take advantage of that appropriate habitat. Unfortunately, for the very most part, wilderness areas were not set aside to protect trees. They were set aside for wilderness values, for scenic values, and they tend to be high elevation, and by and large, the timber is not of large stature. There are exceptions, and there are some areas within wilderness that contain really prime timber stands. But as a general rule, what's in the wilderness is not particularly good spotted owl habitat. So, and the plans are attempting to take advantage of the good spotted owl habitat that is within those wilderness areas. Yes, ma'am. The differences between the various subspecies of spotted owls is open to some considerable debate. These subspecies were described on the basis of generally a very few study skins early on in ornithological history. They've been re-examined, and for instance, the difference between the California and the northern spotted owl on the basis of measurements from study skins is pretty minor. There is a climb, a gradient from north to south, and it's continuous with the California spotted owl down the LA area being on one end of the cline of measurements, colorations, etc. Those up near Vancouver on the other extreme. It's pretty much a wobbly line connecting the two. People now have, or we now have, more sophisticated methods of determining biological relatedness. For instance, we've examined bioelectrophoresis, using blood samples, the genetics of the animal. That would indicate that there is no discernible difference between the northern spotted owl and the California spotted owl. However, when we raised the question to the American Ornithologists Union, which is the scientific group responsible for maintaining classification schemes on animals, they looked at the information that was available and said that because there is a cline, we will continue to recognize two subspecies. And that's their general rule of approach in a clinal situation. If there's two subspecies involved, they'll acknowledge those that exist on the extremes. The Mexican spotted owl is a different critter. On the basis of electrophoretic exam, it would seem that it might merit full species status. It's enough different on the basis of electrophoresis that it might be considered a separate species. Right now, the Fish and Wildlife Service is funding some pretty darn sophisticated genetic investigations of barred owls and all 3 subspecies of spotted owls, and we'll have better answers probably within about a year. Yes?
In a worst case scenario, if deforestation continued at the rate it's currently going on, public and private lands, and we ended up only with that habitat of overgrown forest on wilderness areas and national parks, where would the spotted owl be in 2 decades?
We'd still have, if,
How many pairs do we have?
okay. Everybody hear the question? Could you hear it in the back? Okay. It'd be gross speculation on my part to try and name a number or identify a number. We would certainly still have spotted owls. Animals are pretty resilient, and they don't want to go extinct any more than we would. And they're going to do their best. They're going to attempt to breed. They're going to hang on by tooth and claw as best they can. The evaluation of the Interagency Scientific Committee, and I believe every other assemblage of scientists that's looked at this, Audubon panel, Audubon Society convened a blue ribbon panel that looked at this. I think those folks would be in concurrence that unless there is very significant land reservations in addition to wilderness areas and national parks and areas that are otherwise currently reserved for the animal, that in the long haul you would run the species or the northern spotted owl to extinction. That the chance demographic events that surround the reasonably small numbers of owls that would exist in, say, something the size of Mount Rainier National Park, or even something as large as Olympic National Park, are not sufficient to ensure the long-term persistence of the species. We're not very concerned about the genetic breakdown, introgression. Rather, before that is effective in degrading the condition of the critter, we'd be much more concerned about these chance demographic events. 3 bad reproduction years in a row, followed by a huge forest fire. Bingo. Where are you at? You're down from 100 pairs on the Olympic Peninsula to 7. 3 in one corner, 4 in the other. How are they going to get together? Another couple bad years and they're all gone. Here's one.
Continuing your conjecture, you laid out that chart of the options. What's your best guess of which one's likely to be accepted politically?
Gee, I wish I knew. I'd invest in the stock market and make lots of money. I think it's unlikely to be anything less than incorporation of the ISC plan. So that was the 3rd one down. I think that's we're unlikely to see anything less than that. And that's good news for the owl, I think. It's not very good news for most of the other resources. The old growth system, trying to incorporate fish into it, species like the marbled murrelet, it would be really wise, and I think this is what Congress is pointing at, to try and wrap our arms collectively at this time around as much of this bundle as we can and get it done with. We got a nasty pill to swallow in the Northwest, and we're probably well off taking our medicine now rather than prolonging it. Because if we prolong it and pretend that the problem isn't real, the hit is going to become even greater when it does eventually come. And I'm not speaking for the Department of Interior here, excuse me.
We'd like to thank Dr. Meslow for his presentation. Probably another round of applause. Of you that have additional questions, I'm sure he'd be willing to respond to them on an individual